Am I audible to you all here?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
No. Okay, so let us continue what we have started in discussion in the previous class here. So in the previous class, we talked about mainly about the scores structure as well as the evaluation schema, which we are going to follow in this course here. In the last very qualitatively, we have discussed about the probabilities here. So once we go for the probabilities here, one thing is very clear here. When we are talking about the probabilities, there is always some degree of uncertainties involved in that here. We are not sure what will be the exact situation here, what will be the exact values here. But we are trying to predict or trying to estimate uh, those scenarios, those system behavior, etc. So once we are where we're going for the discussion of the probabilities or a proper formalization here. At that time, we have discussed few of the terms here, like sample space as well as the events, correct? So once we talk about the sample space is the collection of all possible outcomes here, or the here, or when we are going to talk about the all possible outcomes here, now these are the experimental, or you can say output of an events here. So this way we have differentiated very qualitatively few things here. And now in today's class we are going to define few of the fundamental aspects of the probabilities as well as the different classifications which we prefer or you can say refer here in case of probabilities theory here, and then subsequently we'll move on to some other important aspects here. So first is mutually exclusive events here. So, what would be the scenario when we say that any event is mutually exclusive here? If the occurrence of the one of the excludes the probability of the occurrence of the other here. Here means if as we talk about the sample space is a collection of all possible outcomes here. Right? The moment we say that this is the outcome, then we have already excluded the occurrence of any other possibilities here. Correct. So, what could be the case here for this? If we continue with our previous discussion of coining here, or if I'm going to toss a coin here, in that case, as we all know that in case of a sample space of tossing a coin will include the two outcomes here. One is head, another is tail here. So the moment I say I am going to toss a coin here, and as an outcome it is head here, it means I have excluded all the possibilities that tail may also appear here. I'm going to repeat it again in case of mutually exclusive events here. The moment I am going to toss a coin here and its output appear as a head here, then it means I have terminated all the possibilities of appearing a tail as a outcome here. Correct? Because if the head is appear, then the tail can't be. If the tail appears here as outcome here, then head can't be here. So either of them could be the possible solution here. Another classification of events is independent events. So two events are independent if the outcome of event A has no effect on the outcome of event B here. So it means these two events will be happening, you guys, more or less simultaneously here, but in the two different frame here. So they will not have any direct relation with each other here. Occurrence of one will not affect the occurrence of others here. So these two will be totally exclusive events here, which will be happening in the different frame here. If one event is happening, then other is not going to be affected here. For example, if we say that if if one of your friend is appearing in one of the exam here, and another friend is appearing in another exam here. For example, one is appearing in the GRE, one is appearing in the GATE here. It may be possible here. Or you can say one is appearing for the JEE exam and one is appearing for the NEET exam here. But if someone is topped here in case of JEE here, JEE, then doesn't mean its failure in the NEET has the relation with each other here. Correct? Or if someone is planning some activities at home here and something happened outside his home here, it doesn't mean they have the direct link with each other here. So one typical example is given: it rained on Tuesday and my chair broke at work here. So how these statements could be linked with each other here? Because they are not in the direct touch with each other here. Means occurrence of one is not directly involved with the occurrence of another here. So these two events are happening at the two different time frame, two different places here, but they are don't have any relation with each other. You cannot claim that the chair has broke at the house here, at the workplace here, because of the rain outside here. Same way here, if someone has stopped in one of the exam here, it doesn't imply that he as the outcome of that he is failed in the other exam here, or something you planned here, decoration at your home here, as the outcome of that some accident happened at the roadside here. Okay, so means there are two different frame of events here. They are happening totally independently, and occurrence of one does not have any relation with the occurrence of another here. So these kinds of events are classified as independent events here. Okay. So example is one: event A, today it will rain in Delhi, and event B, today I will reach office late here. So if I'm living in a one city and another city something is happening, so it doesn't imply that I will reach late here in my office here. So these two events are happening here, but doesn't have a direct link with each other here. So based on these two events here, we are defining another event C, which is calculating the possibility of both events A and B happening together. But as we know that by nature of these two events here, they are totally independent, correct? As they are totally independent, so the chances or the possibility for happening together for them here will leads to the direct probability multiplication here. So if the probability of raining in Delhi is 0.1 and the probability of reaching office late is 0.02, then the possibility of
Hello, sir, you are not audible.
I think now I am audible. I think some connection issue was happened.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So when we're explaining this example here, I was connected or not?
No, sir.
Okay. So okay, let me start with the back previous events classification here. So once we're talking about the independent events here, so we have classified that the independent events are those events here when the outcome of one event has no effect on the outcome of event B. So these two events are happening totally independent of each other here in a different frame of context here. Here. So one example we consider today it will rain in Delhi here, and second event we are defining that today I will reach office late here. So obviously these two events are happening here, and these two are totally different because what is happening in another city it is not going to affect another city activities here. But here, from the probability perspective here, we are interested to define what is the possibility of both events A and B happening together. Correct? So for those cases here, we need to simply multiply with their respective probabilities, and finally we'll get the outcome here. Correct? This gives the complete reference here. This multiplication like this. So here, in case of independent events, overall possibility of both events happening will lead to the multiplication of their individual associated probabilities here. Complementary events is another category of events here. It is of those kinds of events here where we will not find any similar outcomes here, or the same outcome will be appearing here. Correct? So if one is, if I define the two events here, so what will be the outcome will be in the one event, it will not happen in case of another event here. For example, if I take the example of dice, in case of dice, what is that? What is the possibility? It will be from 1, 1 to 6. Okay. So here it will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 4, 5, 6 here. So out of that, one event is A, which will consist of all the, you can say, odd. 1, odd outcome, 1, 3, 5. Another event I am defining, another event B, and this is equal to possibility of all the even 2, 4, 6 here. So when I'm going to roll a dice here, so any number could appear 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 here. So here we have defined two events here. One event is A, where I'm getting a collection of all those outcomes which are odd in nature. So for example, 1, 3, 5. In case of event B, which I'm defining here, which is the collection of all even outcome samples here. So even outcome in case of 1 to 6 will be 2, 4, and 6. So if I club these two here, so clubbing these two will lead to the overall sample space. So this is our sample space. How we define the sample space? Sample space as is the collection of all possible outcomes here. So in case of rolling a dice here, 1 to 6 will appear. Any number could pop up here as the outcome, 1 to 6. And out of the two events which we have defined, where A is collection of all the odd outcome, B is the collection of all the even outcome here. So the summation of these two will lead to the complete sample space here. So here we can say the event A is complementary of event B in nature here. But what is happening at this stage here will not affect other one here. So in case of A, outcome will be always 1, 3, 5, which will be not common in the event B, outcome with 2, 4, and 6. So these outcomes are totally different here. So these kinds of events are classified as a complementary events here. So we could define them as mathematically here. So E bar, we generally, if we define an event E, so its complementary events is defined as a E complement here. For example, for B, I could say B could also be written as a complement here. B is the complement of A. So whatever is present in the sample space, from there, if I minus A here, it will give me the complement of A. So from 1 to 6, if I minus 1, 3, 5, then I will get 2, 4, 6. So this is read as a E complement, and it is the set of all elements in the sample space that are not in E. Next is the sum of all the probabilities equal 1. We can determine that P plus P bar is equal to 1 here. So all the possible probability summation will always leads to the unities here. That's the fundamental assumptions here we take here. So once you go for the more systematic study of probability, at that time we will see these definitions here. For time being, with our common intuition based understanding here, we assume that in case of probability, it will be always a positive, and the summation of all the probabilities will lead to the unity in case of any sample space here. So this is more often if we are defining the P E bar, that is a E complement here. So it is a set of all elements in the sample space that are not in E. Just we have discussed in the previous slides here. And the summation of the probability of P plus P bar means probability of any event plus probability of its complement event will lead to the unity here, because this will be exactly consisting of those elements which are not present in the elements event E here. So in general, when we are referring to solve some of the problem here, at that time we define it as P complement is equal to 1 minus P here. So if you know the probability of rain is 20% or 0.2, then the possibility of the complement no rain is 1 minus point is equal to 0.8 or 80% here, and vice versa here. So if I have the information about the one event here, so it's a complement could always be find out by subtracting the event here. So once we have the information about events, so its complement will be always calculated by subtracting that probability from 1 here. So dependent events is another classification here. So two events are said to be dependent if the occurrence or non-occurrence of one event in any trial affects the probability of the other subsequent trials here. Okay, so as we have discussed few of the examples here, where we find there will be some correlation with the occurrence of each other here. But there are another category here where we're talking about those kinds of events here where they are linked in terms of their outcomes here with respect to the successive events happening here, which I'm going to design here in case of any system here. So means occurrence of one events will have link, or it will be affected by the events which happens earlier here, correct? Or simultaneously happening those events, it will affect here. So for examples, we are considering here the probability of drawing a king from a pack of 52 card is 4 by 52 here. So as those who are familiar with the card here, there will be 4 categories, and each categories has the 13 similar cards here. Okay, and each class has the one king here. So in the out of 52 cards here, there will be 4 cards here. 4 cards which will be consisting of the king here. So if I am drawing a king here, the probability of drawing a king from a pack of 52 cards means the moment I am going to draw a first card here, so the favorable condition for me will be with the 4, because there will be 4 king here, corresponding to the 4 different cases here. Correct? Are you getting my point? I am trying to say here, uh, when we are going for this picking of a card here, at that time, there will be different possibilities. Okay, and these different possibilities mainly governed by the cases in which sequence I am going to draw them here. Okay, so for example, if if I put a first card out here, then the favorable condition first events here at the first time when I'm going to try, so there will be 4 king here. So out of the 4 king, anyone could appear here, correct? But the once I draw on a card here, if it is king here, okay, just try to understand it very precisely. Once I am going to draw on a first card here, so the total favorable cases for me will be 4, and the total possibility would be out of the 52 cards, anyone could be picked here, correct? So the probability for drawing a king in the first pick here will be 4 by 52, correct? And once we go for the second trial here, once I will go for the second trial here, at that time the total number of king which will be available in the card will be 3. One king is already have been drawn here, correct? Did you get my point? So for example, if I put it more precisely here, so in case of card here, generally there are 4 categories. Here one is clubs, another is diamond, heart, and spades here. So okay, what I'm trying to conclude here, when we are going for drawing a card here, that is the king. So the first attempt if I'm going to draw here, so out of the 4, anyone could appear. Means it could be club, it could be diamond, it could be heart or a spade here. Correct? So once I drawn a card, so if it is the king, for example, if I think it is the club king comes in the first attempt here. So the remaining king which will be remain in the card here will be 3. It would be diamond, heart, and spades here. Correct? But once I have pulled out a one card here, now the total number of card available here in the pack will be the 51 here. So the probability of trying another king from that pack here will lead to the 3 by 51, because the favorable condition now will be only 3 in the total number of favorable condition, total number of available possibilities will be the 51 here. When I'm going to pick a card here, so out of the 51, anyone could appear here. So we can observe in this case the appearance or of another event has a directly links with the previous events here, or the happening of the next event is directly linked with the events which happened earlier here. So here these events are linked with each other here. That's why they are classified as a dependent events here. Exhaustive events means the total number of possible outcomes of random experiment is called exhaustive events here. Means it will consist of all the possible cases here. So in tossing a coin, the possible outcomes are head or tail. The exhaustive events are 2. There will not be any third possibility when I'm going to toss a coin here. So it will means it will consist of all the possible outcomes here. Equally likely events here, there is another classification based on the nature here. The outcomes are said to be equally likely when one does not occur more often than the others here. Or we can say that the happening of any event has the equal probabilities here. If I'm going to perform any experiment here, so any outcome will appear and each outcome will be having the same probability of happening here. For example, if I'm going to toss a coin here, so in case of coin toss here, the appearing or I guess appearing of head will be the same probabilities and corresponding to the appearing of tail probabilities here. So in case of tossing coin, head will be having the same probability as reference of tail appearance here. Similarly, if I am going to roll a dice here, so in case of dice, roll here, out of the 6 outcome, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 here, anyone could appear here, correct? This is the equally likely events here, okay? So now we have discussed a few examples of the classifications here. So could you suggest any more examples of equally likely events?
So getting a prime number on a dice while rolling it.
Okay, correct.
Pass or fail in the exam.
Pass or fail in the exam. So both have the same probability, equally likely, huh? It is conflicting here. I think this example is not suitable. Okay.
Sir, occurrence
I
of a
think
day in a week.
because what you suggested, pass and fail, this will be more suitable for the complementary events here. Either if you're pass, then you can't be fail. If you're fail, then you can't be pass. Okay, so that will be more suitable example for that case. Yes. And next example was given by someone else. Please, could you repeat?
The sunset, sunrise.
Sir, occurrence of a day in a week.
Okay. Occurrence of a day. Yes, equal probability. Sunset, sunrise here. It's equally likely. Both will happen. Okay, very good. Okay. So all these events are happening with the same probabilities here. Correct? So it doesn't mean there is any chances of any biasing or any additional or you can say preference is given to some events here. For example, going to roll a dice here, you can't say 2, 4, or 6 will be having the higher preference compared to 1, 3, and 5 here. It's not like this. Anyone could pop up here. Okay, good. So now we have discussed a few of the types of the events here, which is just a classification based on the nature of those events here. So one example could be appropriate for the different cases here. So we have discussed these things here just to visit, or you can say just we are doing the background work here, because whatever going to appear in the next year, for that we are doing this exercise here. So many cases when we are comes for the future class discussion here, we will say this equally likely here. So by the moment we say the equally likely here means all the outcomes will have the same probability, have the equal probabilities here. Anyone could appear here. There is no preference in that case here. But if I'm going to define something preference wise, then there will be a different case here. So we'll discuss those things separately. Okay. Now let us discuss about the probabilities here in a more systematic ways here. Out of these probability approaches here, what we have discussed earlier, in some aspect, in some way here, we already discussed about them here. As per our examples or as per the classifications here, some aspects we already discussed here. Now we are going to discuss in a more systematic way to the probabilities here. We are going to put the things in a correct perspective here. So once you're going to elaborate each one of them, you will find there will be some kinds of similarity with each other here. You will find it, okay? Because this is the probability, the uncertainties is involved there. So first approach is classical approach or priori probabilities here. So according to this approach, the probability is the ratio of favorable events to the total number of equally likely events here. Correct? So if I am going to perform any events here, so the probability which we find out correspond to the favorable events divided by the total number of equally likely cases here. So our classical example is tossing a coin. If I'm going to toss a coin here, so either head or tail will appear here. Corresponding to head, if I consider here, so head will be 1 here, and the total cases will be head and tail, so 2 here. So 1 by 2. Corresponding to the tail, it will be again 1 by 2 here. In these cases, there will be generally 2 outcomes here, success or the failure cases here. So in these cases here, if I'm going to define the success, or you can say favorable or the unfavorable cases here. So if I define an event can occur in A ways and fail to occur in B ways here, so these are equally to occur, then the probability the event occurring A plus B is denoted by the P here. So means this is the successful cases corresponding to any event here. In case of failure, this will be just again different, which we are defining with the probabilities here Q. It is related to all those events here when the outcome is not coming here or those event is not happening here. So in case of events happening, we are defining P is equal to A divided by A plus B. So favorable condition is A. When the event is not happening, so those favorable condition is B divided by A plus B. A plus B is the total possibility here. So as we have discussed earlier, if you need to define the probability, number of favorable cases divided by total number of equally likely cases here. So once we go for these kinds of probability, the summation will lead to the unity. Probability of success plus probability of failure. Summation will lead to the unity here. So once we need to define the probabilities here, we generally could write it in terms of fraction or values here, in terms of percentage values also here. For example, probability is 0.5, it means it is equivalent to percentage of 50%. I can write 0.5 or I could write 1 by 2. All of them are acceptable here in case of probability representation here. So next is corresponding to the classical approach, priori probabilities here. There are few limitations here. So this is mainly limited to all those cases here where we are talking about the game of chances here. Means all those kinds of cases where we talk about the two possible outcomes, one is failure or one is success here. So P and Q, the kind of associated probabilities here. And it will not be applicable whenever the experiment outcome are not equally likely here. That is another constraint with this classification. And this application is applicable only when the events are mutually exclusive here. Next approach is relative frequency theory of probabilities here. In this approach, the probability of happening of an event is determined on the basis of past experience or on the basis of relative frequency of success in the past here. So this is based on the prior experience here, you can say. So if I'm going to perform the experiments, so what has happened in the past here? So based on that information available to us here, I could predict what it could be the associated probabilities here. So for example, if a machine produces 100 articles in the past here and 2 articles were found to be defective here, correct? Out of the 100 articles, 2 are defective, then the probability of the defective article is, so the favorable cases will be the 2 and the total cases will be the 100. So if you calculate the probability, so it will be 2 by 100 and it could be 2% or 0.02. 0.02. Or I could write 2 by 100. So all of them are acceptable here. And this is very close to the classical probabilities here, but we are not bounded with the equally likely cases here. So another example we are considering, if a coin is tossed for the 6 times here, we may not get exactly 3 heads and 3 tails here. As we are concluding here, if I'm going to toss a coin, so then obtaining a head probability is the half, and obtaining a tail probability is the half again here. So based on this probability information here, if I am going to toss a coin 2 times here, it doesn't imply that if the first time if I'm going to coin, if head appear, then the second will be the tail. If the first one is tail, then the second one will be the head here. So that this 50-50% criteria or half the probability condition will remain intact here. So this is not the foundation. So just to understand this prior probability concepts here, if we expand the number of experiments here, in place of okay, so someone need to unmute himself here as the voice is coming. So whenever people are connected for the class here, just have a practice that you keep yourself in the unmute mode here. Whenever you want to speak something here, whenever it is asked here, just unmute yourself and then speak, and then again mute yourself here. Okay, so it will not disturb the other here. So if I'm going to increase this experiment span here, in place of 2 times, if I go for the 100 times or 1000 times here or 10,000 times here, and then I observe the number of cases when the head appear and the number of cases when the tail appear here, then we will find this number will be very close to the 50% here. And this number which we are defining here based on the general experience or the outcomes which is already available with us as a result here based on the past performance here. So it is generally concluded based on the occurrence or non-occurrence of the events here in the past year. So this theory also has some limitation. The first limitation is that the experimental condition may not remain essentially homogeneous and identical in a large number of repetition of the experiment here. If I'm going to repeat the same experiment here, the outcome could be varies here. For example, if I toss a coin at the first stage here, the first time it may appear the head. If I'm going to toss the same coin again here, the tail would come here. If I'm going to roll the dice, first time number 1 will come, second attempt any other number may appear here. So this outcome is not going to be the same here. So whatever the number, if I am going to consider a large number here, 10, 100, 1000 here, if I'm going to again perform the same experiment 1000 times here, so our observation will be slightly varied here. Whatever the number of chances I can vary here, there will be always some variation here. So means if I'm going to perform 100 times here, so first 10 times what is the first experiment here, and the first 10 times if suppose 5 head appear, 6 head appear, 4 tail appear, next 100 times if I'm going to perform the experiments here within the first 10, it may happen that 2 head appear, 8 tail appear here. So even if I'm going to repeat the same experiments here, this outcome would be keep on varying here. There is no consistency in terms of their experimented outcome here. So what we are defining this theoretically here, it will not be always possible to get it in case of practical scenarios here. So whenever you're going to define it, we always get a value will be close to that theoretical values here. as we are considering, if I'm going to toss a coin here, so getting a head probability will be half, getting a tail probability will be half here. So if I'm going to 1,000 times or 10,000 times here, so head and tail probability will be close to the half here. So that is the point. So theoretical values and the experimental values, there will be a slight variation here. So this is the point here. Next definition which we are going to discuss is the axiomatic approach of probabilities here, which we are going to discuss here. And this is the very important approach, and this is acceptable here. And this approach is proposed by the Russian mathematician A.N. Kolmogorov in 1933. And for that, he proposed three axioms here, and based on three axioms here, he generalized this whole theory here. So when you talk about the axiomatic probability approach to define the probability here, it includes the concept of both classical and empirical definition of probabilities, and based on that definition, it summarize it here, and this summary is given in the form of three axioms here, and we are going to discuss these three axioms here in this form. So first axiom, it states, in the subsequent classes we will discuss this slightly detailed here, but for the axiomatic approach perspective here, this is the three axiom which is given in brief here. The probability of an event ranges from 0 to 1. As we have discussed, we always refer non-negative values here, and this non-negative values is in the range of 0 to 1 here. So if the event cannot take its probability shall be 0, these are the impossible events here, correct? So this, for example, sun will rise in the west. This is impossible events here. So its possibility will be 0. Sun will rise in the east here. It is the certain events here. So its probability will be unity here. Correct? So this is the probability assigned or mapped here based on the nature of those experiment outcome here. Correct? So if there is an event which probability is very low, means it will be close to the 0. If its occurrence chances is very high, then its probability will be close to the unity here. This is the first axiom understanding. Second axiom is the probability of the entire sample space is 1. So in a sample space, what is here, as we discussed, sample space is the collection of all outcome of an experiment here. So this probability summation of all those experiments outcome leads to the unity here. Third, if A and B are mutually exclusive events, then the probability of occurrence of either A or B is denoted by the probability of A union B. That's the way to represent. Its associated probability will be equal to summation of the probability of event A plus probability of event B here. Mutually exclusive events here. You need to remember. Mutually exclusive events here means they are totally independent with respect to the each other here. Occurrence of one doesn't have any relation with the occurrence of another here. Now let us go for the little bit detailed, or you can say more generalized form of these geometric approaches. What we have discussed in these three forms here, that is the complete summary here. What we have discussed. Probability will range from 0 to 1. Certain events will have the probability 1, impossible events have the probability 0, and the probability of entire sample space will be unity. In case of mutually exclusive events, probability of A union B will be equal to the probability of A plus probability of B. That is, this is all the three axioms here, and based on that we define all the probabilities here. So this is the more generalized discussion for this theory here. So first is axiom of non-negativity, the first conclusion which you have drawn here in the previous slide here. So it states that given some process or experiment with n mutually exclusive outcomes called events E1, E2, E1, the probability of any event EI is assigned a non-negative number. As we have already concluded, its values ranging into the 0 to 1. That is a non-negative range here. Axiom of exhaustiveness means the summation of probabilities of all the events which are present in the sample space will lead to the unity values here. This is corresponding to the second observation here, correct? Third definition is axiom of additiveness here. So as we are talking about the mutually exclusive events here, then occurrence of one event doesn't have the relation or effect on the occurrence of any other events here. Yes, here EI and EJ events are totally different here. So their probabilities will be equal to the PI or PIJ will be PI plus PJ here. But if these two events are not mutually exclusively here, means they have some dependency relation here. So in those cases, PI or PJ or EJ will be equal to the P probability of event EI plus probability of event EJ minus probability of event EI and event EJ here. So this is intersection means we are talking about the end. So end operations we are interested at this stage here. So next is theorems of probabilities. So probabilities theory which we are going to discuss. Okay, let us discuss few. I will not able to complete it today's class here, but okay, let us discuss up to what point we can cover here. So there are what we have discussed till this point here. This is related to the probabilities here and their or you can say standard way to represent the probabilities we have discussed. Prior to that, we talk about the different types of the events classification here, and subsequent to that, we have taken some examples, and based on those examples, we try to understand those classification of events here, and then subsequently we define the certain probabilities here. Now we are going for the theorems of probabilities theorem here. So generally addition theorem, multiplication theorem, Bayes theorem, these are three theorems which we used to go for the study here. Here this is complete summary chart for the theorems of probabilities. So first is addition theorem in case of mutually exclusive events here. So as we have discussed, if two events are mutually exclusive, then the probability of the occurrence of event A or B is the sum of the probability A and B here. Okay, so let us take this example. A bag contains 4 white and 3 black and 5 red balls. What is the probability of getting a white or red ball at a random in a single draw here? Right. So what was the solution? So a bag contains 4 white, 3 black and 5 red balls here. So there are 3 category of balls which is present here. What is the probability of getting a white or red? Here what is saying, white or red here. We are talking about the OR operation here. Okay. So how we can calculate the probability of getting a white ball? How we can calculate? In case of white ball here, if you see 4 white, so 4, if you sum of all these 4 plus 3 plus 5, 4 plus 3 7, 7 plus 5 12. So there will be, if I am going to pick a ball here from this 12 ball here, so any ball could appear here. So each one has the case of equally likely at this stage here. So the probability of getting a white ball, so favorable condition will be 4 divided by the total possible condition equally likely, 12 here. In case of red ball here, so this favorable condition will be 5 divided by the total condition, that is 12 here. So here, as per the problem statement, what it says, probability of getting a white or red ball here. So it means if either of them appear here, it doesn't matter here, correct? So this this combined probability will lead to the summation of their probability, just like here, P A or B will be equal to the PA plus PB, probability of event A plus probability of event B. So here the probability of event A is 4 by 12, probability of event B is 5 by 12 here. 4 by 12 plus 5 by 12 will be equal to the 9 by 12 here. Okay. Another way you can understand the same example here, 4 white and 5 red balls here. Total number of balls are 12 here. What is the probability of getting white or red balls here? So all the favorable condition will be 4 plus 5, 9 divided by 12. That's it. You can cross check it here, or this answer here straightforward here. Did you understand what we did? Okay. Any doubt? Okay, fine. Okay, so let us move on for the next one here. So mutually exclusive events, then we talk about the non mutually exclusive events here. So in such cases where the events are not mutually exclusive, the probability of one of them occurring is the sum of the marginal probability of the events minus the joint probability of the occurrence of the events here. Means the joint probabilities corresponding to those probability where both the events will be happening simultaneously here, or both the outcomes could be matched here. So this will be the area where we define the joint probabilities here. So let us take another example here. Two students A and B work independently on a problem. The possibility that A will solve it is 3 by 4, and the probability that B will solve it is 2 by 3 here. What is the probability that the problem will be solved here? Correct. So that problem could be solved by A. Its probability is 3 by 4. So means there is also a chance that it can't be solved by A. It is 1 by 4. It is that probability that the B will solve the problem here, it is 2 by 3. Means its complement B can't solve the problem. It will be again 1 by 3 here. Correct. So what is the problem statement? What is the probability that the problem will be solved here? Right. So there are two approaches to look up this problem here. Okay. So one is one which you are going to follow. The events are not mutually exclusive, as both of them may solve the problems here. The problem the probability that the problem will be solved will be summation of probability A that A will solve, probability that the B will solve, okay, minus this will be equal to the 3 by 4 into 2 by 3 here, correct? And this will be equal to the, if you solve this expression here, it will get the 11 by 12. This is the standard way to solve this problem. Another way you can look at what is the probability that problem will be solved here, correct? What is the probability that problem will be solved will be equal to 1 minus that the problem will not be solved, correct? That is not, so that will be not solved here. So what is the probability as we are having a discussion? A will not solve 1 by 4. B will not solve 1 by 3 here. So 1 minus not solved probability, that are mutually exclusive events here. So 1 by 4, 1 by 3, 1 by 12. 1 minus 1 by 12, it will lead to the 11 by 12 again here. So this is the another way to look the same problem here. Then you can solve it here. Okay, but at the initial stage, it is always recommended to go with the conventional ways here, which we most of the people used to follow here. Okay, I think this is all for the today's. So next class we will go for the some other properties here, which we discussed. Okay, so what we have discussed in the today's class, any issue? So did you understand what we are, what is the discussion going on in the class here? But this is the very fundamental basic aspects here which we are going to need in our further discussion here. That's why we are going with the slow pace here. Okay, maybe in the upcoming classes we will be going a little bit faster pace here. So if you have any problem, if any place you find it is difficult to understand here, just write it in the chat here, or you can ask here. Okay, no issue. So feel free to ask here. Don't keep your problem with yourself here. So what we discussed till today, any doubt? I think chat responses.
Sir, what is difference between mutually exclusive events and exhaustive events?
So exhaustive events is those events which will consist all the possible outcomes here. Okay. So, but when we are talking about the mutually exclusive events here, so these are the events where the occurrence of one is not affecting the other here. That's the difference between them here. Okay. So, if you remember when you are having a discussion in the classification of events here, at that time I emphasized these points at that time too here. So when you say exhaustive events means all the possible outcomes are part of that events itself here. There is nothing outside that is going. Means entire sample space is part of that event here. You can say. So probability of all the summation will be there leading to the unity. But in case of mutually exclusive events, you can't say. One event, it will be a collection of some experiments here, but its value will not be unity summation. First thing. Second, it will not have all the entire sample space outcome within a one mutually exclusive events here. There will be always some fraction of that complete sample space outcome here. Okay. I hope I have clarified your doubt here. Any other question? Okay. So with this note, I assume there's no further question here. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.